I have the distinct privilege to welcome Madeline Bemis, who is a professional cyclist and joined Rally Cycling in 2021. Prior to joining Rally, she was a part of the Milligan University cycling team in Tennessee. Currently is in California, and I get the opportunity to have a conversation with Madeline and ask all the questions that an enthusiastic but amateur cyclist gets to do. So, Madeline, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This is super exciting.
All right. Well, we all have unique backgrounds. We don't all get to be professional cyclists, but we have experiences that lead us to what shapes our career. So let's start with just something very basic. What inspired you to ride? Where'd you get your start?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this quite a bit, Jarrett. I would definitely say the social aspect of cycling is huge for me. I'm definitely always talking on rides, being around like-minded people who push each other, and then just the opportunity to go out every day and find your limit, push the limit is definitely what keeps me going. And that's not to say that I'm super inspired or motivated every day, and that's kind of where the discipline comes in, but definitely a big picture stuff. The social aspect and the opportunity to kind of push those limits has been huge for me.
Cool. So with that in mind, did you kind of always know you wanted to be a professional? Was that something early on you saw and said, this is what I am aspiring to be, or was it something more evolutionary?
Yeah, I got into cycling. My younger sister and I used to take our mountain bikes on family trips and ride with our dad. And then throughout high school, I was only a mountain biker, actually. I rode in the NICA League. And then it wasn't until college that I began road cycling. In high school, it was kind of always in the back of my mind. I was never bold enough to kind of proclaim that goal, that dream of wanting to become a professional. And then in college, in collegiate cycling, I realized that I had the potential to kind of make the jump to the next level. My coach saw something in me, my team saw something in me and supported me to get to where I am today. But it was a pretty big, bold goal to verbalize that I was kind of like afraid to until only the past couple years. But definitely always been in the back of my mind as a possibility, and it's a dream come true to be able to execute that goal this year with Rally.
Yeah, so you got your start in mountain biking, but are a road cycling professional. Was there ever a chance you could have been a professional mountain biker, or was the speed something that really drew you over to the road cycling piece of it?
Yeah, definitely. So Milligan University, where I attended college, and I'm actually still enrolled in college there, is definitely more focused on road. So I gave that a go my freshman year, having never really even ridden a road bike before. And I fell in love with the tactical aspect, the fact that the whole team works as one for a common goal. That's definitely something different from mountain biking, where it's kind of everybody for themselves. I've heard road cycling described as like a game of chess, and I think that's what makes it exciting. It's not always the fastest person that wins, but sometimes the smartest or those with the best tactics or the best team. And that's something definitely different than mountain biking that I fell in love with and found that I've thrived in.
Great. So you mentioned you're in school while also being a professional cyclist. How do you balance those two? They're both equally demanding, and I assume could be a challenge at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say balancing school and cycling has been a big obstacle. I've always kind of known doing both at the same time. It's not just finding the time for both, but also the drive, being able to switch daily from school mode to bike mode, back into school mode to bike mode. It definitely is draining and takes its toll, but altogether, I think they kind of complement the two. I've always said, like, if I just did cycling and nothing else, I'd probably just kind of sit around all day and overanalyze and overthink my intervals, my rides. So it is definitely nice to kind of have something to take my mind off of just cycling and challenge myself in different areas. So it has been difficult at times, but altogether, I think really rewarding, and I wouldn't have it any other way than to do the two at once.
Great. Okay. So this year is your first year as a pro. How's it going so far?
It's going well. I met the team in Moab, Utah, most of the team, for our team camp. I think it was 2 months ago. It was 10 days. That was a really awesome experience. We did some high volume, high intensity, got to know the team, push each other, kind of understand what our individual strengths are and how we can work together as a team. I haven't yet had the opportunity to race with the team. That'll come in a few weeks at Armed Forces. That'll be my first experience racing with the team. So I'm definitely super excited, itching to get out there, kind of see where I'm at, work together with them and be reunited as well. And then the racing for me will carry through the summer and early into the fall. So it's going to start picking up here pretty quick. But for me, up until this point, I've just been training hard each day, focusing on the goals ahead that I've set forth for myself and the team.
Yeah, you mentioned high volume days. I assume that volume meaning miles. Is
Yeah.
that okay? And what's a high volume day for a professional cyclist?
So the team camp was a total of 10 days. The first couple of days we were there, it was actually snowing in Moab, snowing, sleeting, raining. But then the last 7 days, I think we put in a total of 25 hours, and it was pretty high intensity every day. We did some motor pacing, some lead out practice, some race simulations, echelon training in the high desert. We drove to places a couple days. So it's definitely a way to kind of to push the limits and kind of see where everybody was at in terms of how they can handle the intensity and the volume as well.
Oh, great. So, um, as your first year, any unexpected surprises or things you weren't counting on? Obviously, you've been racing in college, so I'm curious, as a professional, were there anything you didn't see coming or?
I think when I initially got to the team camp, I was definitely starstruck by just being able to meet some of these riders. They're women that I've looked up to and followed for literally years now. So to be able to share like a house with them and train with them for the week, it was kind of surreal. I remember meeting Heidi Franz for the first time, and she came in, and I remember watching like her rides at pro nationals before, and she came in and gave me a hug, and I was like, oh my gosh, Heidi just gave me a hug. I couldn't believe it. It was awesome to just be surrounded by not only women that I've looked up to, but that have like a like-minded goal to compete and race at this high level together.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear that not just myself is starstruck by the professionals we get to ride with. Heidi actually rode with us at one of the Tour de Triangles, so it's cool to hear that it's not just me that's starstruck. So. All right. Well, in case you haven't heard, there's a global pandemic that's been going on. So everyone's adjusting to working from home and social distancing, and obviously you talked about the team aspects of it. So as you've trained, how has COVID impacted your training and your approach? And obviously you've transitioned from college racing to now with the pros. How has that gone?
Yeah, absolutely. So when everything did shut down in March of last year, it seemed like people kind of took the approach of, well, I'll just throw in the towel and wait until next year, or keep training in the hopes that something will happen. I took the latter and kept working. My biggest goal last year was the Pro Nationals. It was my last year in U23, so unfortunately I missed that opportunity. But I did keep training as if racing was going to happen, and then things would fall through, and I'd try to pick myself back up and get back out there to train, and then it would fall through, and it definitely became emotionally draining to kind of get my hopes up, and then for something that I was pouring so much time, effort, and heart into to fall through. But I'm hoping that the work that I put in last year will show in these early season races. Luckily, I had my younger sister with me as part of my quarantine, and she rides also. She's part of the collegiate team. So even when we weren't able to do group rides or ride with other people, I at least had her, which was good. And like I said earlier, I do thrive off the social aspect of cycling. I'm always yapping on group rides, catching up with people. So I definitely miss that aspect of it. But altogether, I'd say I'm glad that I continued training throughout last year, and I'm really hoping that in these early season races, that hard work will pay off.
Yeah, and I know you live in California, so the weather's much better than those of us that suffer in Minnesota from 9 months of winter. A lot of us do have indoor trainers. Do you train? Do you have an indoor trainer as well? Do you put many hours on a stationary cycle, or do you benefit from being outside all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Our team is sponsored by Wahoo, so they definitely hooked us up with the kicker and the desk and the mat. So that was super nice. Last year, I also did some Zwift races with the national team during quarantine. So that was a good way to use some of that fitness that I'd accumulated and show. Um, I do come home to California for the winter, which I've kind of described as a life hack since we are in Tennessee here. And it does get it doesn't snow a ton there, but it definitely does get uncomfortably cold. So to be able to come home to California is really awesome. But definitely having a smart trainer and having Zwift and the Sufferfest we use also makes a huge difference in being able to train indoors.
All right. Well, and we've been getting questions. So just as a reminder, everyone's phone is muted. So if you have questions you'd like asked, just submit it in the chat. I've seen some come through, and we'll make sure we get to those. So as we continue on, and you bring up Sufferfest, and part of that is a high intensity workouts from races and training. You guys are burning a lot of calories while you're out racing. Curious if you have a post ride ritual, and then a post event meal that you're gonna reward yourself with once you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. The team is sponsored by First Endurance. They have an awesome recovery mix. It tastes like a milkshake. We had that every day during team camp, and then I got to bring some home. And then, if not, my go-to is definitely real food, high carb, high protein. I enjoy grocery shopping and cooking, whether I'm here or away. Um, we eat a lot of protein pasta, make like turkey, sun-dried tomato sandwiches sometimes, leftovers from dinner the night before. Um, yeah, and I try to get those in like in a timely manner. Ideally within a half an hour is good for me.
Oh, cool. Along those lines, you're putting your body and stressing it in event in the races and events, and sleep hygiene certainly comes into effect as you're traveling. How do you make sure that you're always at your best? If you're in California and you're on the East Coast, you're dealing with time zones. How do you create and make sure you're continually, you're best rested in terms of heading into competitions?
Yeah, absolutely. The team has partnered with Whoop this year, so we have the Whoop straps that kind of give us like a sleep and recovery score each day. So that's been huge in managing jet lag and just general fatigue. It's able to tell you like what stages of sleep you're in, ideal time to go to bed and wake up. So that's been a huge help. But outside of that, just being able to kind of quiet the mind when the traveling and anticipation for racing gets stressful. I've been working on that some, just being able to kind of create like a sleep environment that's cool enough, dark and quiet. I've been reading some at night just to kind of to log off and try to quiet the mind and get ready for sleep. But yeah, definitely just being able to kind of manage the stress and overthinking of like being excited to be in a new place and race. I anticipate some of that coming up soon.
Well, and you just talked about reading. So, are you reading anything in particular? You have a favorite genre or a book, or is this all schoolwork that you're reading at night to quiet the
No,
mind?
definitely don't want to do schoolwork right before I'm reading a book right now called The Power of Positive Thinking. I've been trying to kind of switch my mindset into being more positive, having more of a positive outlook on life. Sometimes I am kind of guilty of being too hard on myself. So I found that kind of switching into thinking happier thoughts has helped my performance on the bike and off.
I think that's probably good advice for all of us as we're
You're right.
as we as we're dealing with some challenging times. Um, All right. Well, one of the questions, and we're starting to move into questions we're getting from the audience. One of the questions is, what is your focus in school, or what are you majored on in school, and does that lend itself to your current profession as a professional cyclist?
Yeah, I don't think they're really correlated much. So I graduated undergrad last semester with a degree in math, and then I am currently enrolled in the Master's of Education program. So my goal is ultimately to become a high school mathematics teacher, which is a little strange and not really not too correlated with cycling. And I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be. Sometime down the line in the future. But teaching is something that I have a passion for. I enjoy math and the challenge that it brings. Yeah, so that'll come together someday, hopefully.
Well, and you mentioned that racing is much like chess, and I think math would naturally lend itself to that kind of thinking. So
That's a good point. Plus, there are so many numbers in cycling. You got power, time.
yes,
They're
data
right.
is key.
There's something there.
So another question this came. So do you still go out and mountain bike? Is that something you do?
I have not recently, not since this year started, just for safety's sake. Definitely wouldn't want to get hurt. It's something that I miss, something that I still have a passion for. Hopefully, after the season ends this fall, I can get out there and kind of return to my roots. I still have the mountain bike, it's in the garage downstairs. It tempts me sometimes. But yeah, for now I'm just staying safe and sticking to the road bike. But someday.
Oh, that's good. Adam Jerpy has been quite prolific in his questions, so I'm going to get some of his out. Do you have any rituals or superstitions in terms of your approach to race day or anything like that?
Superstitions? No. That's a good question. Rituals, yes. And I'll definitely have to kind of get back to like recreating, I guess, the routine since it has been so long since I've raced. But definitely getting a solid warm up in. We're sponsored by Amp Human, so putting that on in a timely manner. I usually say a prayer on the start line. I like to kind of do like a last minute talk with teammates or family or friends or coach that's there, just to kind of get my mind on making sure the hair is good. The race day braid is important. Yeah, and then just getting helmet, heart rate monitor, making sure that our Wahoo screens are set to that race screen, and then we're off and we're good to go.
Yeah, you just kind of hit on some of the things, heart rate and whatnot. Are there specific numbers you're focused on kind of throughout the race? Do they change from the start to the finish? And then we did have a question around what's your FTP as well. So
Somebody to ask that question. Um, I'd say I focus more on heart rate than power during the race. I know some people don't focus on either, but I like to be able to see heart rate. Usually I end up, like if I am going super hard, I'll look down at the heart rate and it's not as high as I thought. And I know that I can push a little harder, but also kind of being cautious of you don't want to send it into the red too often and burn through too many matches. If I do get near my max heart rate, I know I can only do that just a handful of times throughout the race. And I usually want to save that last match for the finale.
great. This question came from Sam Weeby. What was your favorite part of the Moab training camp, and what did you see as the hardest or toughest part of training camp?
The very first ride that we did, it was just under 3 hours and it was sleeting almost the whole time, just like freezing rain. But I just remember enjoying every moment of it. And I posted that on my Instagram story as well, just because it felt so surreal to be against such an epic backdrop with my team. Just that it was something that I had visualized and anticipated for and worked towards for years. So I didn't mind getting sleeted on, snowed on, hailed on. It did start snowing and hailing towards the end too. so that was a pretty epic moment, just to be in kind of those epic, kind of horrendous conditions, but also surrounded by the team. And we had the follow car with us, with the Swanee and the team director, and it just felt like I had kind of made it in that moment. It was kind of surreal, honestly. Um, the most difficult part for me was let's see, I guess just like the actual training and getting consistently fatigued. I remember on the second to last day, we were all extremely tired just from it. I mean, it felt kind of like fatigue from a stage race. I remember on the second to last day, I put my oatmeal in the microwave the morning of, and I was getting so frustrated. I was closing the microwave and I was like, why isn't it starting? Why isn't it starting? And I think it was Katie Klaus that told me, Madeline, you haven't put the numbers in to the microwave, because I was just so tired and my mind was so foggy by that point. I was getting mad at the microwave for not starting and I hadn't put the numbers in. So I guess just like that the fatigue from team camp, and then it definitely took a couple days after getting home and kind of letting down to kind of reflect on what had happened.
Great. So this question came from Lindsay Tucker, and it's around advice for someone who might be interested in making this their career, and getting involved in professional cycling.
Yeah, I would definitely say consistency. Um, it's easy to kind of dream about um, having a career in professional cycling and to be motivated on certain days, but it's definitely I can kind of liken it to a full-time job. You're always training, whether it's on the bike or off. You kind of have to think like every decision that you make either makes you faster or slower, whether that's what you eat or what time you go to bed, um, staying in instead of going out. Um, so yeah, just consistency throughout the day, throughout the week, even if I'm not motivated, I'm not inspired every day, just getting out there, putting the work in. um, I feel like on like social media, sometimes on Instagram, we kind of paint this picture of it's such like a glamorous lifestyle, getting to travel and getting like the bikes and the kits, but in reality, it's a hard sport, and definitely something that you have to commit your time to, not just the time, but your emotion, your mentality, and yeah, just staying consistent and disciplined, even when it's not easy, when you don't necessarily when you're not necessarily dying to get out and ride and complete a workout.
Great. So this was another one from Adam. Is there something in particular about rally cycling that attracted you to them, and ultimately, you decided to sign with them?
Yeah, rally was definitely.
You can say Charles, by the way.
Oh, is Jeff good? Rally was definitely my number one choice for professional teams, and it was kind of like the big dream. I'd reached out to a couple of other teams, but Rally was definitely like the gold standard for me. Um, they're extremely professional. After following their social media and kind of knowing some of their riders for some time, I really liked the vibe that the team had. I'd kind of seen them work together at races, seen them off the bike. I knew a couple of the women. I really like the orange, I have to admit, the colors, because part of the reason is my university's colors are also orange, so the black and orange kind of means something to me. Um, yeah, Rally was definitely my first choice from day one, and at times I questioned if it was something that I could achieve. So it's definitely a surreal moment when they did offer me a spot.
Great. So just a couple more questions. Anything unique in your bike bag? Other than the maybe obvious things, but is there anything you have in particular in your bike bag?
Yeah, absolutely. I use like the bike bag or the burrito bag throughout the base season. I usually take it off as I start doing group rides and kind of ramping things up with speed. But during the winter, I carry that thing around. So I have the usual things like jacket, flat repair kit, but I guess and snacks, of course. But I guess the interesting thing would be chapstick. I need chapstick on rides sometimes, and sometimes other people need to use the chapstick also. So I guess that's the only kind of like strange off the wall item. But it's definitely saved me a couple times and other people on the ride, because as soon as your lips get chapped, the ride becomes miserable. So I need that sometimes.
All right. Ankle socks or tall socks? Do you have a preference?
Definitely tall socks. I'm pretty passionate about this one. It's just something about the way it makes my calves look, I guess. Just a little bit better. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, that seems as good as any. The look, I mean,
Yeah, there's no other way to put it. I just if they say like look good, feel good. So I feel like if those make me look a little bit better, then I'll feel a little better. A few extra watts there from the tall socks.
all right. Just got another question. Analog or electronic shifter?
Definitely electronic. We have electronic shifting on our bikes this year. We have the SRAM Force, and our race bikes for Pro Nationals will have the SRAM Red, which I'm super excited for. Also, electronic shifting. Those bikes are going to be really dialed, so I'm excited to get on those and race soon.
All right. We just got another question from Matthew Kinney. Do you have a favorite piece of gear? Helmet, eyewear, anything like that? Obviously, the tall socks help your calves look better and give you a little extra.
Our favorite piece of gear. I'm assuming he means outside the bike. No, I was really excited with the gear this season. I think it performs well. It looks sharp. We have LEM helmets, which are super lightweight. I think they look good. They feel good. Rudy glasses, and then Pactimo kits. Yeah, and then the felt bikes are really awesome. We have training bikes, and then we'll get race bikes soon. Yeah, I think we look good, feel good with the gear and the kits that we have this season.
Cool. All right. Oh, here's another one that just came in. On a road bike, what's your cleat preference? Trail cleats, speedy. Is there any one you prefer?
I've used a couple different types. We're sponsored by Time this season. I just switched out my cleats yesterday actually, so it always feels good to kind of get more of a firm grip as they wear out. They have a little bit of float in them, so I was feeling good yesterday. Yeah, those have been great. They're easy to clip into. They lock in well and hold you in, which is what you're looking for in cleats.
Yeah, yes, the important part. So, all right, we've actually gotten some more questions coming in. This is from Jill. What are some of your bucket list rides for you, other than obviously, getting to participate in the UHCCF rides? Anything number one on the list?
I think just not any rides in particular, but just getting to kind of travel around this upcoming summer and fall, ride and explore new places with the team, and then get to race. Definitely one of the draws of cycling for me is getting to travel and kind of see these new areas. And I think traveling by bike is such a unique perspective. I think like by car is too fast, but just walking around is a little too slow. So getting to train and race in some of these cool areas. I'm supposed to race some of the USA crits kind of throughout the South. We have some in Georgia, Alabama, and then out west in Salt Lake City, Utah, Littleton, Colorado, Boise, Idaho. Some of these places I've never been before. I'm not even sure what they look like, what the vibe is. So just being able to kind of explore these areas and race with the team, I'm really excited for.
Yeah, excited about the Women's Tour de France in 2022.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was definitely thinking about that when it was kind of announced last week. I think that'd be awesome to be able to do. For me, the stars would kind of have to align. Rally would need an invite, and then I would have to make the roster, and obviously that'll be a super difficult thing to achieve. But the possibility is super exciting when I saw that last week. I think I do better in stage races than one days. Just kind of the type of rider I am, being more of a diesel. In stage races in the past, I've kind of felt a little bit better and scored a little bit better results wise each day. Yeah, that would be be absolutely awesome, I think, to be able to do. But yeah, I'll just keep dreaming big and working hard, and that could possibly be a possibility.
All right. And then going to kind of close with one final question around, is there a specific racing obstacle that you've overcome that as you've kind of progressed in your career from college to now pro? Is there an obstacle that kind of stands out that you can share with us?
Yeah, definitely different tactics in terms of from collegiate to professional. The collegiate fields are definitely smaller and slower, which it makes it kind of difficult to be able to be like on the gas. I think I'm better in races that are kind of consistently hard and favor the fit versus trying to be kind of play cat and mouse with tactics. So the high speeds were definitely kind of an awakening for me, but something that I found like I thrived in. Being aggressive in the fields, in these bigger fields, it can sometimes get up to like 100 women, and then just comfortable in the pack. I felt like I've kind of lost a little bit of pack skills just this past year, but thankfully being home in Southern California, we have several group rides a week. I've been going to some crit practices and then a group ride on Saturday just to kind of get like the sensations back of just being in a good field. Just this past Thursday, I felt like I was super comfortable in the practice crit that I was doing. Just being able to kind of take the turns at these fast speeds, hold my own, kind of shoot some gaps, be aggressive where I need to be. Yeah, so I felt like I was kind of thrown into the deep end when I did start doing these kind of elite higher end races. So I definitely had to pick it up fast, but it was good. It was a great transition, and I feel like I've thrived in these faster paced, bigger kind of races.
Oh, great. And actually, Adam was able to squeeze another question in. So, Madeline, what was your worst crash as a cyclist?
Oh man, I consider myself having been extremely lucky. I do descend pretty fast. I consider that one of my strengths. I've hit 60 miles an hour on the bike, or miles per hour on the bike before. That was in the Colorado Classic, actually. Um, I've had a couple crashes in crits, but I crashed at in Athens 2 years ago. But my worst crash was last summer. I was up on a mountain road and I wasn't going too fast. I was kind of just hanging out. I think I was singing a song and then washed out in a turn on some sand. I had a relatively new bike at the time, so of course my first thought was, I got to make sure that the bike's okay. But that was my first real experience with a road rash, and I still have some of the scarring on my arm. Road rash is terrible, and if any of you have experienced it, I think it takes off just enough of the skin to kind of expose like the nerve endings. And it got my hand too pretty bad. So I've started wearing gloves since then. I would highly recommend everybody on here wear gloves too. Hurting your hand is pretty rough, but I wasn't able to ride for a couple of days after, even though there was no internal damage, just from the road rash. But other than that, I do consider myself pretty lucky having or descending in the way that I do overall.
Great, and actually, we just had another question. So we've got 2 minutes before I know we're going to get the hook. But is training, and this is from Vince, is training in mostly zone 2 or mostly high intensity in terms of where your training is?
Yeah, I'm kind of guilty of not staying in zone 2 and not going easy enough. On recovery days, that's something that I've had to work on quite a bit. We definitely try to stick to zone 2 in the base season, which is one of my favorite parts of the year. Just kind of cranking out some slower base miles, hopefully getting a group together. But as we transition into coming into races, definitely high intensity, shooting it all the way up into zone 6. Group rides, trying to get some leg speed going. So I guess to answer that question, it really depends on the time of year and the type of racing that you're training for. I'll be doing mostly crits this year. So yeah, high intensity, repetition, leg speed, and I feel like it's coming around and I'm going to be ready to hit it in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's not surprising that you described yourself as a diesel, and you may find yourself in the high intensity more often than zone 2. So,
Yes.
all right. Well, Madeline, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us your experiences. I completely, it was a privilege to be able to speak with you today. And with that, I'm going to pass it back off to Scott. So, Scott.
Well, thanks again. Let me, offer our word of thanks as well, Madeline, for taking the time out. I know you're busy balancing school and the practice for the upcoming races. So thank you for doing that, Jarrett and Jeff, for helping lead our conversation today as well. But even more so than that, just thank you to all of the sponsors that are represented on this call. I know we highlighted Zealous, but that's just one of so many. We would love for you to, if you're interested in getting involved in a UHCCF ride, learn more about us. Visit uhccf.org. You can also follow us on Facebook. We have a dedicated cycling or Hope Rides account there, as well on Strava. So we do hope to see you at one of our upcoming rides here later this year. Thanks everyone for carving out time today.